My name is Camille Rivera. I'm 34 years old, and I live or used to live a life that many women my age would have envied. Married to a good man, living in a charming bungalow in Pasadena, building what was supposed to be a stable, happy future. But somewhere along the way, I started believing I deserved more. More passion, more spontaneity, more attention. And in chasing that illusion, I set fire to everything I had. Darren was my husband. 38, tall, quiet, thoughtful. A senior transportation engineer with Caltrans, the type of man who read the newspaper front to back, who preferred backyard barbecues to downtown lounges, who knew how to fix things without looking it up. We met through mutual friends at a dinner party in Eagle Rock. He wasn't the loudest or the flashiest man in the room, just the one who remembered my favorite wine the second time we met and brought it chilled without asking. He had a daughter, Maya, from a previous relationship. She was 10 when everything began to fall apart. And while I never birthed her, there were nights she'd fall asleep on my lap during movie marathons, and days she'd run to me before her dad when she scraped her knees. I'd helped with school projects, sat through piano recitals, made awkward small talk with her mother, Charisse, who seemed determined to remind me I'd never be her family. And maybe deep down, I let that get to me more than I realized. Our home was filled with routines. Tuesday tacos, Sunday pancakes, Saturday morning gardening. I used to find comfort in it. Then slowly, I began to resent it. I'd come home from working late in Santa Monica and find Darren asleep on the couch, with a bowl of popcorn in his lap and Maya curled against his shoulder. They looked like a picture I wasn't really in, like they didn't need me. And then Levi started at the firm. He came from San Diego, hired to head up digital strategy. 31 ex-surfer vibes, a sly grin that tugged at one side of his mouth when he laughed. He was brilliant in meetings, but it was how he noticed people noticed me that caught me off guard. He complimented my presentations, asked for my feedback, even when he didn't need it. Remembered small things like my favorite cafe or how I hated cold AC blasting my neck. The first time we grabbed coffee, it was innocent. A quick latte run during a tight project deadline, but he asked questions Darren hadn't in months. How are you sleeping? Do you even like this project? He laughed at my dry jokes and made me feel seen, not just appreciated but wanted. I told myself it was harmless, that it felt good to have someone flirt with me a little. I hadn't felt that buzz in so long, the electric jolt of being looked at like you were the most fascinating person in the room. At home, Darren was still Darren, kind, reliable, but tired. He often worked late too. On the nights Maya was with her mom, he'd fall asleep mid-conversation or suggest we save the movie for tomorrow. I can't tell you how many tomorrows we left hanging in the air. Then one night while sitting beside him on the couch, he snored gently while I scrolled through a meme Levi had sent me. I smiled silently, then quickly tilted the screen away from Darren. That should have been my first warning sign, the first time I hid something. But I justified it. He wouldn't care. It's just funny, it's nothing, but nothing became everything. The texts went later into the night. Levi would message me random thoughts, compliments, stories from his past life in San Diego. He once wrote, "You're the only person here who makes the job bearable," and I saved that message in a hidden folder like a teenage girl with a crush. Then came the company mixer. It was held on the rooftop of a West LA bar, all twinkling string lights and curated cocktails. Darren couldn't come. Maya had a science night at school. I said it was fine, kissed his cheek, and drove off in a navy dress I hadn't worn in over a year. Levi found me near the edge of the balcony swirling a gin and tonic in my hand. "You look like something out of an indie film," he whispered, smiling. We laughed and talked and drifted farther from the crowd until I wasn't sure whether the night air was what made my skin tingle or the proximity of his hand brushing mine. When he kissed me in the valet line, it wasn't a surprise. It was a culmination. And I kissed him back, like it had been months in the making, because it had. I remember going home that night, slipping off my heels in the entryway and tiptoeing past Darren and Maya, sleeping soundly on the couch. Maya clutched her stuffed dolphin. Darren's hand was still resting protectively on her back. I stood there in the dark, watching them. I felt like I'd stepped into the wrong life. The next morning I made coffee for all of us like usual, but something had changed. I couldn't look Darren in the eye. I started staying late at work more often. Maya asked once if I was mad at her. That question gutted me. I hugged her tighter than I should have, and said no. Of course not. But I was pulling away from her, from Darren, from the life we'd built. And Levi. He leaned in, sent me playlists, picked up lunch for me without asking, waited for me after meetings. You deserve to be someone's first choice, he once said, and I let those words burrow deep. So, I made the choice. The terrible, irreversible, selfish choice. I told Darren I needed time to find myself, that I wasn't happy, that it wasn't him, it was me. I didn't tell him about Levi. Not then. I couldn't look him in the eye when he asked, voice shaking, "Is there someone else?" "No," I whispered. "This is just something I need to do." He nodded slowly, helped me carry my bags to the car, didn't cry until the last box was gone. I moved in with Levi that night, and for a brief moment, it felt like I had done the brave thing. But bravery and betrayal can feel the same in the beginning. Levi's place in Culver City was the opposite of what I was used to: minimalist furniture, vintage movie posters, record player spinning lo-fi jazz on weeknights, no kitty snacks in the cupboard, no pile of mail by the door, no second toothbrush in the bathroom. That wasn't mine. For the first time in years, everything around me felt curated for me. And I convinced myself I was finally living the life I should have had all along. Those first few weeks were intoxicating. We went out for sushi at 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. We stayed up late binging art house thrillers and made breakfast at noon on Saturdays. He'd wrap his arms around me while we cooked and whisper how lucky he felt. He posted photos of our wine nights, tagged me in inside jokes, and made me feel like I was the leading lady in a romance I'd always imagined, but never had. I called it freedom, a shedding of an old life. Darren didn't fight me. He was respectful too, respectful. He sent calm texts about logistics. "What day can you pick up the rest of your things?" "Maya has a dentist appointment Thursday. I'll take her unless you want to," I replied when I felt like it. Part of me liked making him wait. Like he deserved the unease after all the years I felt invisible. Maya, however, she didn't text at all. I checked her Instagram. She posted a blurry photo of her cat with the caption, "Everything changes." I tried not to read into it, but the guilt dug its claws in. I reminded myself, I wasn't her mom. Charisse was still around. I'd done what I could. When Levi suggested a weekend trip to Ojai, I agreed instantly. Darren and I never did things like that. Not spontaneously. There were always soccer games, grocery runs, broken faucets. Levi booked a B&B with an outdoor soaking tub. We drank sangria on the patio and talked about dreams, his plan to open a boutique agency someday, my fantasy of moving to Big Sur and starting a wine label. We laughed. We touched constantly. He looked at me like I was his whole world. This, he whispered one night, is how love is supposed to feel, and I believed him. Back at work, the affair-turned relationship became a not-so-secret secret. We'd exchange glances during meetings, brush fingers, passing reports. It was thrilling, dangerous, delicious, but it didn't go unnoticed. Tony, our receptionist, stopped smiling at me. Michelle, in content strategy, made a point of excluding me from Friday lunches, and my manager gently pulled me aside to say HR had received an anonymous note asking if there was fraternization across reporting lines. Levy didn't report to me, but the implications stung. Still, I dismissed it. People were jealous, bitter. They didn't know what Levi and I had. One night while Levi showered, I checked my phone and saw a text from Darren. Maya asked if you're coming to her open house. I didn't know what to say. I stared at it, paralyzed. I hadn't even known there was an open house. I started typing a response I'd love to be there, then stopped. Would that confuse Maya, give Darren mixed signals? I deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "Thanks for letting me know." That was it. Cold, distant, exactly what I didn't want to be. Later, Levi came out of the bathroom and kissed my neck. "Everything okay?" he asked, toweling his hair. "Yeah, I lied. Just work stuff." I began noticing little things. He left dirty dishes in the sink and shrugged when I cleaned them. He'd come home from guys' nights smelling like beer and perfume I didn't recognize. He'd start answering texts mid-conversation with me, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be the nagging wife again. So instead, I tried harder. I stocked the fridge with his favorite IPA. Bought tickets to an art show, he mentioned once. Learned how to make fish tacos the way he liked them. I told myself this was different. We were different. Not like my marriage, not routine, not stale. And yet one night, I caught myself folding his hoodie and placing it on the edge of the couch, exactly the way I used to, for Darren, and I froze. Was I doing it again, building my life around someone else's orbit, mistaking temporary infatuation for permanence? The next week I stayed late at work to avoid going home. I told Levi it was for a pitch. Really, I just sat in my car staring at photos of Maya from last Halloween. She was dressed as a scientist. I remembered how she made me call her Dr. Maya for days. She used to run to me when she got good grades. Now she didn't run to me at all. I wondered if she had stopped missing me. Or worse, if she still did. Levi noticed my silence, my occasional mood swings. But instead of asking what was wrong, he pulled away. He started working later. Bringing up the agency idea again, but this time with Tony's name attached. "I might partner with Tony," he said one morning over coffee. "She's sharp, and connected. Could be good for business." I smiled, but inside my stomach dropped. Tony. The same Tony who barely looked at me anymore. The same Tony who once told a coworker I'd landed Levi fast. My phone buzzed. A photo from Darren Maya holding up a certificate. Science Fair winner. She worked so hard. I stared at it, swallowing the lump in my throat. I wanted to reply, tell her I'm proud of her. I didn't. I just locked my phone and excused myself to the bathroom, where I cried as silently as I could, because the life I left behind was still happening, still growing, and I wasn't in it, and Levi. He was slowly drifting toward a new orbit, one that didn't include me. The holiday season arrived with a cruel kind of timing. I thought maybe if I planned something perfect for Levi and me, a surprise getaway, a candlelit dinner, something to shake us loose from the monotony, we could rediscover that spark we once lit like wildfire. I remembered how it all started with rooftop lights and whispers that felt electric. Maybe I could recreate that? I bought a silk dress in forest green, the one color Levi had once offhandedly said made my eyes look dangerous. I booked a reservation at a restaurant in Venice Beach that required a 3-week wait list. I even ordered a bottle of the Malbec we drank our first night together, had it gift-wrapped and hidden in the trunk of my car. 3 days before the company holiday party, the anniversary of the kiss that started it all, I asked Levi, "Do you want to drive there together or meet at the restaurant first?" He paused, looked up from his laptop and said, "Actually, I was thinking maybe we should arrive separately." I blinked. Why? He didn't look up. People are starting to talk. HR might get involved. It could get messy. The blood drained from my face. This was the first time he'd ever acknowledged that our relationship might have consequences. Until now, we had lived in this bubble of entitlement, assuming we were the exception. But now I was inconvenient. "Right," I said, lips dry. "Whatever you think is best." I spent the next 3 days moving through a haze, practicing my smile, pretending I wasn't unraveling. I still wore the green dress. I still showed up to the party, fashionably late, like he used to love. He was already there, and he was standing with Tony. They were laughing about something, her hand gently resting on his forearm in a way that wasn't just casual. She wore a red satin dress and held herself like she knew that I saw them, knew I could do nothing about it. I didn't make a scene. I grabbed a glass of champagne and found a group of junior associates to chat with. I fake laughed, nodded at the right times, all while feeling like I was drowning in a tank of mirrored glass. Levi came over eventually. "You look amazing," he said, but his eyes flickered around the room behind me. "Thanks," I replied coolly. "So do you." We danced once, maybe twice, but there was no closeness, no weight in his hand. He was already leaving the moment. Christmas plans never came up. 2 days later, he casually mentioned, "My parents want me in Phoenix this year. I guess I should go." "You guess I asked?" "You can come, if you want," he said, shrugging. But it sounded more like obligation than invitation, and that was it. He left Christmas morning. I watched from the window as his Uber pulled away, carrying him and a suitcase packed with clothes I had laundered and folded. No goodbye kiss? No. I'll call you later. Just silence. I spent Christmas Eve alone in his Noir apartment, eating cold Thai takeout and watching reruns of holiday sitcoms. Every character had their family, their someone. I had a dying plant and an unopened bottle of wine. On Christmas Day, I scrolled through social media. Everyone posted matching pajama photos, cookies by the fireplace, children tearing open gifts with wild joy. Then I saw it, a photo of Darren and Maya in front of our old tree. But it wasn't just the two of them. There was a woman next to him, a woman I didn't recognize. She held Maya's hand. Darren had his arm around her shoulder. The caption, "Smaller family last year. Full again this year. Grateful for growth." I dropped my phone, not because he looked miserable, but because he didn't. He looked complete. And just like that, something broke open in me. Or maybe something finally collapsed. I texted him that night. "I've been thinking about you and Maya. I know this might be unwelcome, but I miss you both. I'd love to talk. When I get back." It was a lie. I hadn't gone anywhere. I just didn't want to admit I was alone. I watched my phone for hours. He never responded. When Levi returned 2 days later, he brought me a souvenir magnet that said Grand Canyon State. He handed it to me with a sheepish smile, like it meant something. I placed it silently on the fridge and went to bed early. That night, I heard him typing in the other room. I checked his laptop when he fell asleep. Search tabs, apartment listings in West Hollywood, lease terms, studio rentals. He wasn't just pulling away, he was preparing his exit. And I was still clinging to the wreckage of something I had destroyed. The next morning, he came into the kitchen wearing a serious expression. "We need to talk." I almost laughed at the cliché. "Let me guess," I said flatly. "You and Tony didn't mean for it to happen, but now it just feels right." He blinked. I didn't plan for this, Camille." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what I was going to tell Darren when I left him." He had the decency to look ashamed. "I think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay. You can take your time?" "No," I interrupted. "I'll be gone by tomorrow." That night I lay on the bed while he slept on the couch. I scrolled through every photo from the last 6 years. Birthday cakes, road trips, Maya's Halloween costumes, our wedding day, his hands shaking slightly as he adjusted my veil. I cried until my stomach hurt, until my throat felt raw from holding in screams. I wanted to crawl back into that world to undo it all. But the truth was, there was no way back. I had traded 5 years of love and commitment for 3 months of attention. And now I had nothing. Just silence. And a future I no longer recognized. I left Levi's apartment just after sunrise. The air in Culver City was still foggy. I didn't pack much. Just a few bags of backpack and the green silk dress I had worn to the holiday party, the one that now felt like a relic from a life I'd made up in my head. I checked into a cheap extended stay motel near Echo Park, peeling wallpaper, a humming mini fridge, the kind of place where lost people quietly drift between second chances and dead ends. That night I scrolled through Darren's social media again, something I had been doing obsessively since Christmas. His new profile picture wasn't of the 3 of us anymore. It was just him and Maya, standing in front of a glowing carousel at some winter fair. The new woman, his new family in the background, her hand resting over a rounded belly. She was pregnant. My heart stopped. The caption read, "New beginnings. Summer's going to be beautiful." I stared at that post for what felt like hours. Then I threw my phone across the room and finally let the tears come, real guttural sobs that tore through me like wildfire. I collapsed on the carpet, gasping, aching, as the reality clawed its way out of denial. He had moved on. He had built something new, and I was just gone. The family I once tried to mold myself into, the child I had once read bedtime stories to, the man who would have bent over backwards to keep me, they weren't mine anymore. They belonged to someone who didn't trade them for excitement, who hadn't believed that passion was more valuable than partnership. For days I couldn't eat, couldn't think. I sent one final message to Darren. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I want you to know I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. For everything. You deserved better. Maya deserved better. He never replied. But honestly, I don't blame him. He wasn't punishing me. He was protecting what he had rebuilt, and I was no longer part of that foundation. I started looking for a new job. I couldn't go back to the firm, not with Levi and Tony, playing out a love story that should have been mine. Not with the whispers, not with the shame. Each application I sent felt like an admission. I'm starting over. From zero. I wanted to tell someone, anyone, how much I missed Maya. How I still remembered the way she snorted when she laughed too hard, or how she used to call me Cammy like we had our own secret club. But there was no one left who would understand without also judging me. I realized I'd become a ghost haunting my own past. I kept trying to re-enter a life that had already closed its doors, locked them, thrown away the key. Because here's the truth, no one tells you when you're about to destroy your life. Sometimes you don't get to fix it. Sometimes I'm sorry doesn't buy you forgiveness, it buys you silence, and that silence grows roots. I wanted to believe that if I waited long enough, Darren would answer, that he'd say he missed me too, that maybe we could start again, but I know now he did miss me. Then he stopped. He missed me until it hurt. Then he healed. And somewhere along the way, he realized something I refused to admit. He deserved more. More than someone who could throw away 5 years without looking back. More than someone who chased adrenaline at the cost of everything stable and real. More than someone who couldn't see what she had until it was no longer hers. And me, I was the woman who used to have it all and let it slip through her fingers in exchange for a version of love that couldn't even last a season. Now, when I think about the words second chance, I don't picture the romantic comeback I once dreamed of. I picture the silence of a voicemail that never gets returned. The stillness of a house you're not welcome in anymore. The blank space where family photos used to hang. I keep asking myself, why won't he let me back in? But I already know the answer. He didn't shut the door. I walked out. And while I was busy convincing myself I deserved more, he was quietly learning that he did too. Sometimes what we call freedom is really just escape. Escape from responsibility, from routine, from ourselves. Camille's story is a cautionary tale for anyone feeling restless in a stable relationship. When everyday life starts to feel dull and someone new comes along who makes you feel seen, it's tempting to believe you're missing out. But real love isn't found in fleeting attention. It's built in the quiet moments, the late-night compromises, the ordinary Tuesdays. Camille didn't leave a toxic partner. She left a good man. She walked away from a little girl who trusted her, from a home that was steady, if not always exciting from years of shared memories. And she did it for something that sparkled in the dark but couldn't survive the light of day. What she learned, too late, is this new doesn't always mean better. Exciting doesn't mean lasting. Infatuation feels like passion until you realize it's just novelty wearing a mask. The deepest regret often isn't about what we did. It's about what we threw away, thinking we could always get it back. So if you're at a crossroads in your relationship, bored, tired, tempted, pause before you leap. Ask yourself, am I running towards something real or just running away from what's hard right now? Am I looking for a partner or a thrill? Because some doors once closed don't open again. And some people once hurt learn to protect their peace, even if it means leaving you behind. In the end, Camille didn't lose Darren because he stopped loving her. She lost him because she walked out, and by the time she turned around, he had learned to love himself, more than someone who treated his heart like a temporary option. Choose wisely. Not everything we give up comes back, and not everything that feels good in the moment is worth the weight of what we'll regret tomorrow.